Do the events in Charlottesville make these social protests more understandable?
Well, let me start with this, if I may. When I, like all three of you, and I think almost everyone watching, saw what happened this last weekend in Virginia, I'm disgusted. I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed that that takes place in this country. Racism, racial supremacy, race cults of any kind are odious. And like I said, the overwhelming emotion beyond disgust is that it's just simply unfathomably embarrassing that that exists on the soil of the United States in 2017. And I agree with many things both of you gentlemen have said this morning. Stephen A., I totally agree. I cannot not understand from a legal standpoint how this isn't first-degree murder. I think in Virginia the definition between first and second is distinguished between premeditated. That car running into a group of people looks pretty premeditated to me. And Max, I am also concerned that this exists in our country. It gives me a very, very pessimistic view of where we're headed. This is domestic terrorism. It needs to be called out from the highest powers in this country. It needs to be put on notice, pointed out, and everyone be able to condemn it. Does it then, to answer your question, Molly, make Colin Kaepernick's protest more understandable to me? The answer is no. Here's why. I refuse to accept that the debate is between Colin Kaepernick's point of view and those cretins that took to the streets in Virginia. This is not the two sides of the coin in this debate. It is not, is Colin Kaepernick right versus idiots carrying Nazi flags and Confederate flags and causing violence in the streets of Charlottesville. From the very beginning with Colin Kaepernick's protest, and by the way, I just listened to Michael Bennett as we came in here, and I really have nothing to rebut Michael Bennett on what he just said. Pretty strong points, nothing to disagree with. But from the beginning with Colin Kaepernick's protest, I've asked for one thing, and sometimes been mocked for it: specificity. Let's talk about exactly what you want changed and what you're sitting for, what you're kneeling for. Max, I heard you very eloquently say it's been about police brutality. It's been about application of the law equally. It's been about systemic issues of racism. My point of view from the beginning has been this. I've had problems with the forum. I've had problem with the place, time, and how you did that, how you enacted that protest. But you also have to be very specific about your point and what you want to solve. Because if it's just about racism, there will always be idiots like those in Charlottesville. That, unfortunately, is probably unsolvable in the human condition. But can we solve things that you have a specific problem with, like police brutality or like application of the law? And if so, just to finish up, Max, and if you can point to those, then we need to have honest debate about those points. The prevalence, the type, the legitimacy of police brutality or application of laws on each of those individual circumstances. That's the honest conversation. The honest conversation is not Colin Kaepernick's point of view versus Richard Spencer or the idiots in Charlottesville.
Well, again, from a narrow point of view, I agree with you. And also, you are a trained attorney, and so you, of course, your mind may go to that place. Like, wait a minute, we have laws, you know, you want to redress, you want to address something. What do you want to address? There's a process you go about it. And then there are tastes. Do you like the way they went about it? And people are allowed to react how they want. They ostracize him socially or support him because of the way he did it. I understand that. But I think in a broader sense, it is actually about that. Kaepernick, if you look underneath it, look at the broad point. It's there is racial injustice that has not been corrected from the atrocity of the slave trade, the institution of slavery. It's never been fully corrected. And I am protesting this. That's the subtext. And the subtext of the hateful bigots who marched, who were armed and wound up killing someone in cold blood, incidentally, is no, we think that that's good. We like that. That is essentially what's going on. Now, I will say this, that I think we all agree on this. One of the most beautiful pictures to come out of this was the black cop with his back to the protest, to the hateful bigots, to the white supremacists and Nazis, neo-Nazis. And they had swastikas and Confederate flags and were spewing hateful, disgusting things. And he was there protecting their right to do it. Right? Now, I understand you can say, look, no one's saying Kaepernick doesn't have the right to do it, but there are consequences. But again, I think that misses the emotional undercurrents here. That, you know, the feeling that people are getting is, yes, that's right, that black cop is defending those bigots' right to do it. This is America. Just as it is America when someone protests something in this country by kneeling during the national anthem. And if the answer is you can never do that because, after all, you're then protesting all of America, then in fact you're, and if there are pressures brought to bear that keeps that person unemployed, in fact you're saying, sure, you have the right to do it, but don't actually exercise that right without severe consequences. And Kaepernick's side has zero moral equivalency, which is, I think, really underneath what you're getting at from Richard Spencer's side. One is a loyal opposition that you may disagree with, and the other is a hateful bigot and a bad guy. And in that way, you're right. There's no moral equivalency.